Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and Minister of Finance, Sousa, MP Su Wong, MP Handong, and MP Vice President. So good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Confederation of Greater Toronto Chinese Business Association, we would like to welcome you all to attending this reception and also the press conference. So the objective of this event is to provide you with a face-to-face opportunity to meet with our Finance Minister to discuss about the year's provincial budget.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm very pleased to host tonight's event with my colleague MVP Handong, MVP Vice, but also with the Confederation. Because today is the first time the Minister of Finance actually coming out within our community to share with each and one of you about the budget. What is the budget all about? How is it going to affect you, whether you're a young person or a senior or in the business community? But the most important thing here is the fact that you're keen and you're interested about Ontario budget and you're caring about Ontario budget. So what I'm going to say is, how am I going to introduce the Minister? Minister, you're not new to our community. You're quite familiar with the Chinese community because I know you come from Mississauga, and there's a large Chinese community in Mississauga. But more importantly, you have been very compassionate during this very difficult time. Despite the fact that the budget, there's a lot of pressure, whether it's healthcare, education, infrastructure, you hear a lot about. But the Minister always makes sure that we deliver as Ontarians, as a government, about being a fair and a just society. So without further ado, I want each one of you to show your respect and more importantly, show your appreciation for the Minister for being here tonight and share with you the 2015 Ontario budget. Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for being here. It's a real pleasure. I congratulate all the presidents who make up the Confederation of the Greater Toronto Chinese Business Association by coming together, working collaboratively on behalf of our communities. And it's critical because when we do things jointly, when we collaborate with one another, we get so much more done. And that's certainly how we look at this budget, recognizing that we're in this together. Many have contributed to the makeup of this budget. We did many consultations around the province, asking for input, asking for advice, asking for their priorities so that we reflect the needs of Ontarians, the needs of our communities, your needs particularly. And here in this community, we have some outstanding champions. I've had the pleasure now of working closely with the three representatives that are sitting in this room. Su Wong has come to us. What a breath of fresh air she has been, advocating and fighting, especially for young people and education. And we truly respect, Sue, all the work you're doing for us at the Legislative Assembly and in our caucus. Handong is someone that I've known for some time. In fact, Han and I worked together at the Ministry of Immigration. And he has also established himself, and we are so proud that he stood and ran, and not only did he run, he really did a fantastic job of winning over Trinity Spadina and all of the constituents over there, and his youthful manner and his ability has really shone in that community, and we thank you, Han, for your leadership. Of course, I left an individual who has been with us at the Legislative Assembly, and he brings us wisdom, advice. He has so much knowledge, and if it wasn't for Baz Balkinson and his ability to sort of capsulate some of what it is that we do, we would be lost. And I gotta say, Baz, you are a tremendous force in our caucus, and I really appreciate all that you do. I want to begin by reflecting on a story, something that's very dear to me. And you have to appreciate this. I say this sincerely. One of the biggest highlights of my career as a politician was in 2014, I believe, 2012. Boy, time escapes me very quickly. And on that day, I was treated to an outstanding event. where many members of the Chinese community came to provide me with my Chinese name. And there, some of them are here today. I have to say, and I must say, I was also in hospital at the time getting my gallbladder removed because I had quite an incident. And the worst part was, one, I had to sneak out of the hospital in order to receive the name. The worst part is I wasn't able to eat all the beautiful food that was being put before me. And the name is something that I hold so dear. In fact, my business cards have it as well. It's Sousa. Very good. And I so this budget is a reflection of the notion of being caring and giving to our communities. It is a reflection of the name itself. It's a reflection of you. And one of the things that we're putting forward is something that enables us to be more competitive long term. The Chinese community has been an outstanding force in the province of Ontario. In fact, we've been working very closely with the province of British Columbia as well, which shares in that diaspora of the Chinese throughout Canada. And what we're doing here is investing in our people, recognizing for us to be competitive, to be more caring to our communities, we've got to invest in our young people. We've got to invest in skills and training and the talent that exists right here in Canada, right here in Ontario. And that talent is a reflection also of the tremendous inputs of immigrants that come to Canada and come to Ontario. And the dedication and the desire to do better is a reflection of the community here from the Chinese community that comes to Canada. So I appreciate that input. And we have invested $250 million just last year to try to provide for our young people. We increased that. I'm sorry, it was $295 million. We've increased it to $250 million more, plus another $20 million for experience training, to a total of $565 million to help young people be prepared for the jobs of tomorrow and enabling them to succeed. In fact, we know that youth unemployment in Canada was hovering around 18 or 19%. Ontario had lowered down to 16%. In other parts of the world, it's much higher. We cannot afford to have our young people out of work for any longer periods of time. So that is why we've invested as much as we have to enable them to be part of the workforce, but more importantly, enable them to provide an attraction for business investment. We need talent, we need skills, we need them to be at our best. And that is an advantage that we have in Ontario, and I'm looking forward to even doing more. Another great part of the budget is our investment in infrastructure and transportation, roads and bridges. We're just trying to catch up to other parts of the world who have done a much better job of public transit and subways and LRTs and buses and so forth throughout those ancient cities. We need to do more, even in our area of the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area. We know that if we don't address this issue, it's costing us $11 billion, according to the C.D. Howe Institute, for lost productivity and gridlock. That has to be improved. That's also part of this budget. $130 billion is being enabled for the next 10 years, and $16 billion alone is being addressed for the GTHA transit issues alone. So we're doing that, and I'm very proud because that's creating jobs as well. Last year alone, that created over 100,000 net new jobs. Another part of the budget is to ensure that we do maintain a very dynamic, competitive business climate. We know that the jobs that we're talking about are those that are created by businesses. This is not about more government, it's about more opportunity. We need to work alongside the Chinese Business Association and others in the province to ensure that everybody's at their best. That means maintaining a very competitive tax. And Ontario's business taxes and corporate taxes are among the lowest in the world. We are lower than any U.S. state. In fact, we're lower than a G7 and G20 nations. And that is an attraction to our province. Alongside skilled talent and labor-driven workforce, alongside the investments we're making to stimulate economic growth, transportation and infrastructure investment, we're maintaining a very low-cost tax system. And we've introduced in this budget an additional $200 million more to our Jobs and Prosperity Fund to attract investment into the province. As a result of that, Ontario has become the top destination in all of North America for foreign direct investment, beating out California, Texas, New York, and every other province. And that's an outstanding event. And many of those investors are members of your community specifically, recognizing that Ontario has much to offer. So we'll continue to be competitive in that way, because that is what creates jobs. The other part of this budget is to ensure that everybody, especially those that retire, are able to retire and afford to do so. Over 60% of Ontarians do not have a workplace pension. So we're trying desperately to find ways to ensure that they do well. Because we know that if individuals who retire are at risk, we're all at risk, and our economy is as well. So we're trying to put forward an Ontario pension plan that comes into force when EI payments are off, when the economy starts to boom, and enabling businesses to attract even more of that workplace talent. And in the end, it gets reinvested back into our economy and enables disposable income to go up as they retire as well. It's a supplement to the CPP. We would prefer to enhance the CPP, so we're working closely with the federal government and other provinces to try to find ways to supplement and offset it for the benefit of businesses and, more importantly, for retirees as they get on in age. All of that means we're trying to be fair. We want a fair society, a society that doesn't leave people behind, a society that invests in them. And so we will continue to work on social programs, continue to invest in education, continue to invest in healthcare. Those two areas are areas that we are increasing in our program spending. But we have to recalibrate our spending. We got to hold the line because we still have to balance the books by 2017-18. And I got to let you know, Ontario has now become the lowest cost government anywhere in Canada. Our program spending year over year has actually been the lowest compared to other governments. We have done much to try to control our spending. We are looking at our compensation reviews to ensure that everyone is at their best, but everyone pays their fair share. Another way of getting to balance is to ensure that everybody does pay. So there's integrity issues with our tax system, and we're looking at ways to improve upon that. In fact, as a result of the tax avoidance measures that we've tried to suppress, we've been able to collect over $600 million more over the last 2 years. And in Quebec, they've instituted a number of programs to try to suppress those initiatives. That's creating billions more for the province. We're going to try to emulate that and bring it into Ontario also and enable a level playing field. The last part I want to talk about is our national leadership. Many are looking to Ontario for some of that leadership. We recognize that we play a huge role in the Federation. We're working alongside other provinces, with Central Canada, with Quebec, and as I said, with British Columbia. More recently, by a handshake in my office, we developed a cooperative securities regulator. Ontario Securities Commission is the top right now, but we want other provinces to join so we can have a more competitive marketplace to attract that business. So Ontario, British Columbia, and Canada signed on. And as a result of that, we're now attracting Saskatchewan, PEI, Yukon, New Brunswick, and other provinces to come on board to enable us to be a more competitive market, enable us to represent to the world that we are acting as one. That's critical. And I'm very, very proud of that because it means developing greater international trade opportunities with China, for example. Another issue that enabled us to be more competitive, another issue that I'm so proud of, is the Bank of China's confidence in Canada. The people of China recognize that their friends are right here in Ontario. We have now become the only destination of North and or South America to provide the RMB hub, the renminbi trading opportunities. That is huge. The world is now looking at Canada, specifically Toronto and Vancouver, for our ability to provide international trade facilitation. That is going to enable us to provide for billions more in trade. And that's tremendous. And it's a reflection on you, on your business association. You are the ones that enable us to attract some of that confidence to Ontario. And I commend you, and I congratulate you, and I applaud you for doing so, because all of us, in the end, will benefit from the hard work that many of you are doing. So thank you for that. And I'm going to end on this note. We are determined, disciplined and committed to balancing the budget by 2017-18. We have surpassed our targets year over year. We're borrowing $24 billion less than we anticipated. Last year alone, we beat our targets by $1.6 billion. Our deficit is now projected to be $8.5 billion by next year, and we're going to balance and surpluses by 2017-18. And we're doing so in a very methodic, balanced approach to ensure that we continue to make the investments that are necessary to be competitive long term. So I thank you so much for the input, the advice, the priorities, the encouragement that many people around the province, including your community, has made. More importantly, Ontario has to broaden its scope. Our reliance only on the United States during the last recession was evident. When we got hit with the recession, we got hit hard because our dollar was high, our oil prices were high, and our biggest buyer wasn't buying. And all that together put a real strain on the manufacturing sector. Today, our companies are much more productive under that environment. They've invested in technology and productivity gain. Our dollar is now lower. Our oil prices are lower. And our U.S. buyer is starting to provide some pickup. Those are good temporary measures. We can't rely on it. We must do better by expanding our trade opportunities around the world. And as mentioned by Han, our colleagues are now in China still trying to promote agri-food processing and agri-food business and other diversified opportunities that exist in our province of Ontario. And that diversification occurs because of entrepreneurs, of the brains of our people. And your ability is what makes us great. I thank you for that as well.
I just want to say thank you to the Confederation of Greater Toronto Chinese Business Association for hosting this event.